we are delighted to have Jimmi Mayes, who will talk about his musical career touring and playing with Jimmi Hendrix, Jimmy Reed, and others as detailed in his book, The Amazing Jimmi Mayes, Sideman to the Stars. I heard Jimmy give a reading and talk about his book at Lemuria a while back, and I did not think it was really going to be possible to get him to do a History's Lunch program because he was still living in Chicago. Imagine my surprise and delight when I learned not too long ago that he had relocated to Jackson, and we are so fortunate to have him here today. For more than 50 years, drummer Jimmi Mayes performed behind some of the greatest musicians and musical groups in history. He began his career playing the blues in the juke joints of Mississippi, sharpened his trade in the nightclubs of South Chicago, and hit it big in New York City behind such music legends as Tommy Hunt from the Flamingos, Marvin Gaye, and James Brown. Mayes played his drums behind blues giants Little Walter Jacobs, Jimmy Reed, Robert Jr. Lockwood, Earl Hooker, Junior Wells, Pinetop Perkins, and Willie Big Eyes Smith. Jimmi Hendrix was one of Mayes' best friends, and they traveled together with Joey Dee and the Starliters in the mid-1960s. Jimmi Mayes has lived through racial segregation, the civil rights movement, the integration of rock bands, and the emergence of Motown. He experienced the revolutions of the 60s, was robbed of his musical royalties, and survived a musical drought. Help me welcome Jimmi Mayes.
Good evening, everybody. Hello, Jackson, Mississippi, okay? It's good to be back home. Well, that sounds so good to me that he was reading. I don't have too much to talk about. He's read it all down to you. But I'd like to get started by, if I may, feel that I'm a lucky person. Well, it started in Jackson, Mississippi, in the juke joints, but it started at Porter Grove Church for me. And back then, the churches didn't have bands. Like you go to church now, they got bands playing everything. But we had a piano player that I used to feel that groove. And my cousin Clarence was here. We had to walk church together all the time. But then now back to you hear about the children's circuit, but I started right here in Jackson, Mississippi, in the juke joints. And Dr. Edgar Smith know about the juke joints. This is where you go in a little club off the gravel streets, and there'd be a bar, but no shots. There would be half a pints, and on the menu, you didn't have to worry about the menu because of fried chicken and catfish. That was it. Nothing else. And we would play when it get dark. We would play from dark to early morning. We couldn't leave the club till everybody is gone. Then you had to sit around and hope that you got some money, because a lot of times the club owner would leave the joint and you'd be sitting there. All that's part of the blues, okay? And then I was fortunate enough to meet a lot of people growing up here in Jackson. And in high school, she told me don't say nothing, but my dance partner, Miss Wilbur Mosley Copeland, is sitting here. Wilbur, raise your hand. You're not going to believe this, and she didn't know I was going to say this. She was my dance partner, and I used to have the toughest time trying to pick her up. She's going to kill me, everybody. Being in high school was fun, and I was just telling the father over here, he was Greenville. Only thing I knew about the Delta was Jim Hill would play Coleman High. And that was the only time that I got a chance to see the Delta. But I feel so fortunate for my manager, Carol and Ron. I know every little town in the Delta almost now, except maybe where the Catfish Museum is, but all of that's part of the blues. Now, well, I want to tell you about the part of Jackson that, where I live, we was raised up in this little house, and we didn't know we was poor, because everybody had the same thing. Tin tub where you took a bath in the tin tub, you washed your clothes in the tin tub. The lady laughed, man, you know nothing about this round tin tub, do you, miss? What, number 3 tub? But all that prepared us, and we were happy right here. Like I said, we were happy, and we felt fortunate, and survived all of this. And now, back to get to Chicago, I'm skipping around a little bit. I got to Chicago and I was fortunate. My mother knew Red Saunders, and I met him. He was a big-time director at Club de Lisa and the Regal Theater. So through that, I was introduced to a lot of people. So I was playing at this blues club, and ladies and gentlemen, at that time, you had to be 21. You still had to be 21 to play in the club. But I was just out of high school. I was 19. And when I played in these clubs, I would have to sit in the office until the band would play. When the band played, I had to come back down because I was too young. They would let me in, but I couldn't sit with the people. So one night, this man came in. He was from Cleveland. And he asked me, he used to come all the time. He asked me, he said, hey man, you want to play drums for Lil Walter? I said, Lil Walter that made My Baby Don't Stand No Cheating, Lil Walter? He said, yeah, Lil Walter J. I said, man, what do you mean, do I want to play with Lil Walter? I said, please let me play with Lil Walter. So I got that job. Lil Walter heard me play. So he kind of adopted me to keep from going through so much trouble about my age. He just told the people I was his son. So we didn't have any problems. So the older musicians in Chicago, it's just a few left, they still call me Junior. Because I was Lil Walter's son. Now, you heard a lot about Jimmi Hendrix being wild, but you don't know what wild is if you should know Lil Walter. I mean, wow. Now that movie, Cadillac Records, some of that was true, but I never know Walter just shoot somebody like that. But the man had a temper. He told me once we was in Wisconsin, and we didn't get paid. He said, Junior, open up that stand, open up your trap case, and give me one of those stands. He said, I'll be right back. He come back, he said, now, I'll teach you something. If you want to get your money from these club owners, you got to draw some blood. You know, have to build it. If you want to get your money, draw some blood. But and Walter was, see, he was driving down a one-way street one night, and he got caught. And the cop said, don't you know you're going down a one-way street? He said, I wasn't doing nothing but going that way. When he ever got in trouble, he just said, call Leonard. Leonard Chess loved Lil Walter. So I got a chance to play with the world's greatest harmonica players. I got to play with one of the world's greatest twist men with Joey Dee and the Starliters. We had the record, the Peppermint Twist. Then I got a chance to play with the world's greatest rock and roll guitar player. Joey Dee needed a guitar player. And I went all over New York, all over Harlem, everywhere, and I finally met this guy. He was with the Isley Brothers. So he wasn't happy. And I went and interviewed the man, this tall, lanky guy, run over boots, no clothes. So we gave him an audition, and his name was Jimmy James. Then he said, we gave him the job. He stayed with us about 6 months. Then he changed his name to Maurice James. So that was cool. Now one night, he called me. He used to practice at my apartment all the time. It's Maurice James, Jimmy James. So I'd let him listen to this Bob Dylan stuff. Bob Dylan talking about "Please Crawl Out of My Window" and all of that. So I'm into R&B and soul. I didn't want to hear no Bob Dylan, but I didn't know this cat was sharpening his trade. So one night, he called and asked me to play with him at the Cafe Wow. I said, how much is it paying? He said, oh man, I play for the dough. I said, you got to be crazy. I said, you want me to leave Joey Dee and you playing for the dough? Lord, I wish I'd have played for the dough. When the Animals came and got him and took him to Europe, just think, I might have been right there playing for the dough. I might have been in Europe. And his name turned out to be Jimmi Hendrix. So about a year later, I was in this club, and this man passed by us in this restaurant. This man passed by with his big hat on, similar to this hat, okay? I'm not copying off of Jimmy, this guy. But she said, there go your buddy, Jimmi Hendrix. It didn't faze me, because I didn't know who Jimmi Hendrix was. She said, I said, Jimmy, who? She said, Jimmi Hendrix. She said, you heard the record Purple Haze and all you experienced? None of it, none to me, because I wasn't listening to rock and roll. So she said, he used to be your roommate. So I got up and fought through the crowd, and there he was, Maurice James, Jimmy James, all about Jimmi Hendrix. So he picked me up and flung me around, and we talked for a while, and he said, well, look, man, give me your number, I'll get back to you. excuse me. He said, I'm busy. I said, oh yeah, this is just a runaround. This is the brush off. And about 3 days later, I got a call, and the lady said, Jimmy wants you to come to the recording studio to do some recording with you. I said, Jimmy who? She said, Jimmi Hendrix. I almost dropped the phone. But I didn't realize who Jimmi Hendrix is now. My bosom buddy. I went to the studio, and just like playing the juke drum, we started that night, and it was daylight when we left out of there. John Wise, you know what I'm talking about. So when we came out with a song, and I feel very fortunate. This song was called My Friends, and it's kind of like about me and Jimmy a little bit. And when we finished the song, I told him, I said, hey man, I added a little voice to that. He said, that's all right. So if you ever listen to My Friends and you hear somebody's voice at the end of it, say, all right. That's me saying, all right. And Bill is playing the drums. So later on, we ran across each other again, and he called me, and he had my number then. So we were playing in Small's Paradise. I was running Youngblood. And Jimmy came 2 nights in a row. And we'd leave Smalls at 4 in the morning and go to the record player and record all night. So out of that recording, we had the Georgia Blues and his latest release on People Held in Angels. I about 4 CDs, 4 Jimmi Hendrix CDs. And we came out with this song, and my mother got a chance to hear all of these songs. God bless her. We came out with the song, Let Me Move You. If you ever get a chance to hear that, you really hear Jimmi Mayes playing some drums, okay? On Let Me Move You, I was getting down. So I asked Lonnie Youngblood a few years later, I said, Lonnie, how did we play with all that energy in the studio? He said, you know what we were doing in the control room before we record? And you read the book, you'll know what we were doing. Steve Yates is here from the publishing company. And Steve, I didn't ever tell you this. This is called the book, ladies and gentlemen. Lemire was kind enough to bring some books, and you can purchase one after the show. Now, my mother read this letter that Mr. Yates then sent out, and it said that he was a pimp and a drug dealer. I'm not, the Lord bless me, I was, but I'm not anymore. I could use a little money though. My mother asked me, she said, Sonny, I didn't know you did all of that. I said, well, Ma, I had to tell a little lie. I said, well, they had to put something in the book. So she said, well, that's all right, I'll tell them I hid your drugs for you. And she asked the publishing company, will I ever see this book before I die? So ladies and gentlemen, he have a film, Steve Davis had tape recorded me on, and on this film, I'm squeezing this book like this. And after the interview, I said, well, can I buy another book to take one to my mother? He said, there's no more books in the house. That book you have is your mother's. So I left happy it was her book, but broken hearted because I didn't have a book. He said, there's no more books in the house. So today I still have that book. I will never let nothing happen to that particular book, because that was my mama's book, okay? And so that, along with all the other things that I did, and I was fortunate enough to get published. Because there's another thing in the book that he didn't read. It says, according to a lot of other musicians and entertainers, I live an interesting life. And I've been fortunate enough to meet all these different people. Can you imagine what a young kid from Jackson, Mississippi, never did nothing, just made it to Chicago, got lucky enough to play with Lil Walton. Then I moved to New York. Let me tell you something, riding on the Pennsylvania Turnpike, I'm from Mississippi, everything is flat. I got myself looking up, seeing these mountains, I started getting scared and nervous because going through the tunnels, I've never gone through a tunnel that long and all of that, and that was really exciting. And then when we were on the New Jersey Turnpike, ladies and gentlemen, a lot of people don't know this, but you're on the New Jersey Turnpike and you just look to the right, you see these things that look like they're coming up out the ground. And that's as you drive closer and closer, that's the New York skyline coming up. And the closer you get, it's like these buildings are getting taller and taller. We had a saying in New York, You can tell the tourists, because if you walking around in New York, all the tourists are like this. Just like I was, just like this, to see all these buildings. But ladies and gentlemen, there's no city like New York City, okay? It was so great they named it twice, New York, New York. I lived a fast life there. I did some things I'm not proud about. And thanks to Protocol Church and just being raised in a church background, I might not be today. They told me, they said, when I was living so fast, they said, man, you got to slow down. You might not make it to 30. Well, thank the Lord, I'm well over 30, okay? But moving right along, ladies and gentlemen, if you get this book, and that's why I'm here, to tell you my story as well as about the book, you will read so many things that happen. You'll read all different phases of music. You'll read about twists. You'll read about blues. You'll read about rock and roll and the things that happen when you're on the rock and roll tours. And some of the greatest time in my life was being on the Motown tour. That was really exciting for me. How I transferred from New York to Detroit was another story. But while we were on the bus, by me being a New Yorker, I had to sit with Martha Reeve all the time. So we'll go for, you heard it in the Motown Review, so I would be a part of that. So one day on the bus, this guy walked up to me and said, man, come on, get up. You can come back here with the guys. Martha's not your mother. Ladies and gentlemen, that was David Ruffin. That's what I felt like I was really with Motown then. Because they had the contours, the spinners, and the Temptations, they'd be back there at the back of the bus shooting dice and drinking and having a ball. I'm sitting next to Martha. So David Ruffin came and got me. I was a happy man. I was with the guys then. But you never seen nothing like Motown. I was able to see DJ records, that was black on. That was the doo-wop era and blues. They had Jimmi Reed and they had the Spaniels, they had some of everybody. But then Motown was a different type of experience. Motown changed music. They had a beat. They had this bass player, James Jamerson. I mean, Motown just took the world by surprise. And to be a part of that, hey Malcolm, how you doing? To be a part of that, look out, Mr. Watts, I'm humbling these people because these are musical people and they know what I'm talking about. But I'm glad they didn't have to go some of this, I'm saving you some of this stuff. You don't have to go through what I went through, okay? But back to the Motown thing. Motown had some of everybody, but when you think about it, Motown didn't have any blues artists, but they were getting so many big hits, they didn't have time to get a blues artist. But Motown looked like everything just turned to gold. And you have to be patient in life. I learned that. Because one of the groups was the Spinners. They was at the bottom of Motown list for recording. And then eventually, by being patient, look at the Spinners now, one of our greatest groups out there. I remember when the Temptations didn't have a hit record, they just had original records and they were opening up for Mary Wells. So one of the guys named Al left the Temptations. Al got mad because he wanted to, in Detroit, everybody wanted to be a pimp. Because Detroit was called, can I use these words, Father? I don't want to say it. I'll just say ladies and hustlers town. I won't use those words. I'm going to say is Detroit was a pimping hotel, okay? I'm trying not to say that, y'all. See, y'all making me a bad guy. But ladies and gentlemen, so Al left the group because he had these young chicks. So the Temps needed somebody to take Al's place and show you how life works out. That somebody they got was David Ruffin. And after that, they didn't look back. Now, I was there, so I know about this, ladies and gentlemen. Barry came and had a record for the Temps. And Smokey Robinson rushed in and said, Barry, wait a minute, I got a record. Barry said, no, I got this session already set up, Smokey. He said, Barry, please let me cut this record. Ladies and gentlemen, that record, My Girl. Wow. If you imagine, the Temps came close. If they'd have listened to Barry Gordy, they wouldn't have had My Girl, as you know, Barry on the studio. Smokey had to beg him, but they got My Girl. And I was fortunate enough to get with Marvin and the Vandellas. And the way I got that, I was on with Tommy Hunt. And we did all the days and everything, and the Vandellas would be on the show. So I was in New York, without a gig, New York is a cold place to be without any work, believe me. I mean, cold. They don't call it a naked city for nothing. So I got with Martha, and I played, and she said, well, Jimmy, I'll get you to Motown. She asked me if I want to play for her, so I did these 3 dates, and Martha never heard from Martha anymore. So I just got on the plane and went on to Detroit anyway. And I learned so much with Motown. A lot of people don't know. I'll give you a little secrets about Motown. You hear all these records by the Four Tops and the Marvelettes and the Temps and everybody, but there's some voices that you hear. You didn't really hear them, but you hear them because they had 3 girls called the Andantes. They sang background on every record that came out of Motown. People don't know that. They were singing on the Supremes record. If it came out of Motown, those ladies was on the record. So you learn a lot if you just lay back and listen. The Andantes was unsung heroes. They didn't get the credit. And the Funk Brothers was the band. These gentlemen didn't get any credit till Motown had moved to Detroit, and all of them was too old and too broke. And then they finally did a movie on them. So I'm fortunate enough to be here in front of you all before I get too old to start telling my story. Because I told them, and I like this commercial, you see, I want mine now. See that commercial about the people want their money now, so I want my money now. And like I said, I got the book. That was another big step in my life. I've been fortunate enough, 2012, I recorded with World Records out of Vienna, Austria. I've been fortunate enough to get a $3,000 set of drums from Tokyo, Japan, Campus Drum Company. So the Lord has started blessing me. But in your walk in life, you got to keep the faith. Nothing comes easy. It's hard work and patience. I was told by this when I got to New York. Big Maybelle, I played a week behind Big Maybelle in Boston, Mass. And at the end of the week, I said, May, Mama, I'm ready for my money. She said, Sonny, Mama ain't got no money, but I got some good advice for you. She said, if you want to make it, you just come to New York. So then I met the Shirelles, and the road manager for the Shirelles said, baby brother, success might not come when you want it, but when it comes, it's on time. Let's translate, that means nothing is going to happen for you until the Lord is ready for it to happen. But you just got to keep the faith. My grandmother used to say, she'd tell my mother, she called her sister, say, sister, this boy going to be a preacher. She would talk about me. Well, I was a long way from being a preacher. But I know how to respect the Lord, okay? Which all of us know how to do that. We were raised up here in Jackson, like it was part of our life. Every Sunday, we didn't have to worry about what we do. We knew we were going to walk to church every Sunday, so you didn't have to worry about that. And that's me. I wish it was like that today, that more kids was in the church. And that's part of the blues, too. These kids don't know. We grew up shooting marbles. Girls were playing hopscotch. Now everybody's glued to the computer. People walking down the street almost get hit by cars because everybody's texting. So the world is just changed. And everybody in this room, I look at all of us, I don't know anybody's age, but we're all fortunate enough to be here today. Let's get an amen for that, okay? And I'm looking at this young man over here. I called him, my cousin Clarence. Oh, Clarence, raise your hand. He's bachelor. He told me about this, and I read about this book signing, and I called Craig, and he said, well, Jimmy, we booked up. And it'll be sometime next year, man. We got a real busy schedule. So I said, well, okay, thank you. And I just got back from Chicago. I got inducted into Chicago Blues Hall of Fame 2 weeks ago. Thank you. So I got this phone call the day I got back to Jackson. And he said, look, we have an opening. And we want to know, can you make it November the 2nd? I said, I'll be glad to do it. It's an old shit, every little bit help, but this is a big bit. And one of my friends told me, I said, I'm doing this book signing. She said, oh, you moving up in the world. When I told her I was doing the book signing for. But this is certainly a pleasure to be here. And I've talked so much, so right about now, he's told me I have 1 hour. So I'm going to start taking some questions now. If you have any questions at all, just don't make it about the sporting life, okay? Because I don't want to talk about that. That's a dark part of my life. So if anybody has any questions, I'm open to answer any of your questions, okay? Go ahead, Dr. Smith.
You mentioned the Funk Brothers. You know, you in touch with Eddie Willis at all up in Grenada, you know, Funk Brothers?
No, I didn't, in Grenada?
Yeah, he's up in Grenada. Eddie Willis.
Oh, I didn't know that. I got to make a note of that because when I met the original Funk Brothers, James Emerson, Earl Van Dyke, and Benny Benjamin on drums, and Wobbler on guitar. But then so many other guys came in, so I really wish you could hook it up. I'd like to get with him.
Because he received one of the governor's awards for excellence.
Oh.
And he also, you know, we have the Mr. Bruce Foundation has a benevolent fund, and we were able to give him some assistance because he didn't get his royalties either from Motown. So I have his phone number.
Yeah, I know we know a lot of people have a lot to talk about.
Yeah.
Oh, that's great. That's great information. I got to get that number. Any more questions? Yes, ma'am.
I saw the movie about the Funk Brothers. Didn't know about the Delonte sisters. I remember seeing them, but where are they now?
Ma'am, it's sad to say most of them passed away. Most of them, matter of fact, all the originals have passed away. You have some still living, and like Dr. Smith said, none of them, all these guys, got the awards they were doing. Very recording. You heard this record, keep on using me till you use me up. Literally use those men up. Literally use them up. Any rest. Something I didn't know. They were playing one recording, James Amos was so tired, he was the background of Motown, this bass player, giving all that rhythm. They say he actually laid on the floor looking up and recorded a song. So tired and just wow. They say they used to have to hide from being recorded sometimes just to have a life of their own. They kept these men in the studio. And you wouldn't believe Studio A, where all these hit records came out, was about half the size of this room. You would believe all that sound could come out of such a little small room. Next question. Yes, sir.
Did you ever play in the nightclubs in Rankin County? There was some big-time nightclubs over there. But
Is that across the river?
yeah, they called it East Jackson or something like that.
Well, yeah, okay, man. Yes, I did. We played for Sam Baker. I don't know. Malcolm probably was too young, and Wilma didn't go across the river. She did, nobody know about it. Yeah, but we call it across the river. Right. Yes, I did. To answer your question. That was. They had a little strip, and I mean, it was a strip, sin strip, boy. It had some good blues. You go across the river and get everything you want. Yeah, and that was all over juke joints. This gentleman know about juke joints. Okay, anybody else? Oh, no more questions. No.
Could you talk a little more about playing with Jimmy Reed? Because he's just wonderful and he's a great part of the book, and we kind of missed him in your talk.
Okay, I'm glad you brought that up. The way I got the job with Jimmy Reed, and one of the guys is here in Jackson right now. You can see him every Monday, Nolan Strutt. I mean, Keen Edward. It was Nolan Strutt and Keen Edward. Keen Edward is a Jackson legend now. You can catch him every Monday night at House and Mel's. Keen Edward and Nolan Strutt had the gig with Jimmy Reed. And they said they didn't want to do all that rehearsing. So this man called me and said, man, look, I got a big job. This Jimmy Reed comeback, because Jimmy Reed had stopped playing. And Jimmy used to be a real alcoholic, but he had stopped drinking. So we practiced with Jimmy Reed for about 3 months, and all he would do was drink Pepsi-Cola behind Pepsi-Cola to kill that taste for alcohol. And I got the gig with Jimmy Reed, and we went to the Ann Arbor Blues and Jazz Festival, 1973 Ann Arbor Blues Jazz Festival, and Ray Charles was headlining, Charlie Mingus, all kind of people. But that night, they put us on the Saturday night right before Charlie Mingus and then Ray Charles. The word got around that Jimmi Reed wasn't coming. He was late. So I asked the promoter, could we go on? I had Jimmy Pryor and the great Lacey Gibson on guitar and Jimmy Pryor on bass. So we went up and we were playing. And the word said, here he come, here he come. And you, ladies and gentlemen, when Jimmi Reed walked on that stage, these people were so glad to see. He got a lot of, his applause was louder than Ray Charles. I know that's hard to believe, but they were so glad to see Jimmi Reed. The world loved Jimmi Reed. He had a different kind of blues. Like B.B. King had his style, Lil Walter had his style, but Jimmi Reed, it was like he was a kinfolk type thing. Because with that southern accent, which I have myself in, and just his songs you could relate to. And like, he told me about this particular song. He said he was asleep, and they put him to this town, and he woke up and looked up and said, what's all these lights? And that's how the song Bright Lights, that's one of my favorite songs, come out. And Jimmi Reed got songs like, you better take out some insurance, and a lot of kids will tell the old lady about that because I'm about to kill you. So you better take out some. But like I say, Jimmi Reed had his type of blues you could really relate to. Something.
Yeah. Could you talk about your experience with Marvin Gaye?
Yes. Ooh, I told you there wasn't no X-rated thing. Okay. I met Marvin. Tommy Hunt, I just got to New York, so I tell you the truth. A lot of people don't like New York. When they visit there, they don't like it because New York is scary. They see all of that going so fast. So I got to New York, and the sky on Tommy Hunt's Road now Golden. We didn't have any money to eat. You couldn't find Tommy Hunt. So we went to the Everly Hotel. No, the Chesterfield Hotel. And Marvin Gaye was there. He said, well, let's go visit this guy I know from Detroit. Marvin didn't even have his Cadillac then. He had out Hitchhike and some other hits. He didn't have all these big hits. So when we got to the hotel, we went to knock on the door. Marvin let us in. And we told Marvin we was hungry. He said, I don't have the $7. He said, I'll keep the 3 and give you all 2 apiece. He said, because I got to get to Town Hill Supper Club and make a draw tonight. And he was waiting for a ride. He said, all I got, I give y'all $2 apiece and some of this reefer I got. Well, that's what we did. Everybody smoked reefer then. So everybody had reefer in it. That was way of life, ladies and gentlemen. I smoked some of that reefer and go to had to hold me. I felt like I wanted to jump out the window. It was that good. So I saw Marvin years later. His first nightclub engagement was at Small's Paradise. I would see him on the shows. And I just left Tommy Hunt, so he said to me, he didn't like the drummer. They had the drummer that was playing. Whoa, 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 whoa. That was the name of the song. But anyway, he sent for me, because I just left Tommy Hunt. He said, man, I want you to do the rest of this week with me with the Small's Paradise. So we did 2 shows a night. After every show, we go sit in this Fleetwood, smoke 2 cocaine, then come back and play. So one night, Marvin was getting dressed, and he's wearing this white tuxedo. So I understood the guy, Joe was his valet, putting the collar bond around him. Then when Joe got underneath and started putting on Marvin's socks, I said, man, what are you doing? I said, you don't need nobody to be putting on your socks. He said, Jimmy, you don't know what it is to be a star. That's what I learned about really being a star. But I still don't want nobody to put my socks on. So Marvin Gaye really, I've learned a lot about dressing from Marvin and being a star, period. So one other thing I might as well pass on to you. All of us was from Detroit, because I'm in Detroit now, but Motown, I'm bad. So we got ready to go to Newark, New Jersey. We was at the President Hotel, that's where all Motown stayed. Marvin called Martha and said, Martha, you aren't going to go on the bus. Jimmy is going to ride with me and Clarence Paul. Clarence Paul was Stevie's Wonder producer. So he said, well, I didn't know what was happening. So he sent me to come to me. He said, Jimmy, I want you to go up and holler, get us some Coke. I said, okay, cool. So that was a great experience. I knew Marvin personally. That's why he sent me to go. So when we got to know him, everybody was lit up. There were four of us, the driver, Clarence Paul, me, and Marvin. I kept playing in the arm, and Martha Reese kept looking back at me like this. And I was trying to play and looking at me, and I said, well, I won't do that no more. But Marvin, I seen him several times after that. A lot of people don't know that Marvin Gaye was being groomed for a TV show, similar to Nat King Cole's show. They were grooming Marvin for his own TV show. He said, Jimmy, they're giving me a TV show. But the deal of Pepsi-Cola was going to be the sponsor. All this came out of Marvin's mouth, but the deal fell through. But a lot of people used to thought I was Marvin Gaye. Marvin's brother. A young man asked me the other day, I was going in with a Silas Club over here, Bruce Lounge. I said, man, I bet a lot of people tell you look like Smokey Roberts. I said, yeah, sometimes I would pass off for Smokey too. But Viva Motown was just incredible. Like I said, I have so much to be thankful for. You have a lot of drummers out here, or a lot of musicians, period, that have that experience because those times are gone. So these kids that's coming up now, be thankful because what's happening is people like Carol and people like this young man sitting back here, Mr. Watkins and all that, they're keeping the blues alive. I didn't see this guy sitting over here. Ladies and gentlemen, we got a star in the house. Stand up, Steve. We got a star in the house, ladies and gentlemen. You have him coming out. All those Bible fans there, well, glad to see you. He already told me, man, we got to get together so I can pick your brain. Well, it's being picked now, okay? But fortunately, we have these young generation of blues guys coming up, and I'm thankful to be around, to be a part of this so I can try to share the knowledge I have. And I want to tell all you all now that I want to make myself available for the first of the year. If you have any drummers coming up, I want to make myself available so I can teach these young drummers the real blues shuffle. A lot of cats are playing drums, but now here's the shuffle. That's the shuffle, okay? But a lot of cats can't do that. They play close to it. Look at Malcolm shaking his head. So I want to make myself available because I have some cards up here, some of my cards and some of my Magic Carol's cards. Or you can get in touch with Steve Yates at Universal Press, and he'll know how to reach me. But I want to be able to give kids the real shuffle. I want to pass the knowledge that God gave me. I want to shut up these young kids coming up, okay? Any more? Yes, ma'am.
Did you ever make it out to the West Coast?
One time, when I made it to the West Coast, yes, Seattle, Washington, Portland, Oregon, but everybody says West Coast, everybody is California, you know, that's West Coast to everybody. I've never been to California. I got a chance to go one time in my life. I was really big Al Smith and Pine Top Perkins, Michael Jackson lawyer, the lawyer that made the deals for the Beatles music. They surprised him with a birthday party. He was a Muddy Waters fan. And Pine Top Perkins and Willie Big Al Smith did most of Muddy Waters' recordings. And I was fortunate enough to be on tour with these guys. One time, they flew us to LAX, had a limo to take us straight to Beverly Hills. Spent the night, Beverly Hills. The next night, we played at the Playboy Mansion, the surprise birthday party. Next day, back in the limo, back to the airport. I didn't even see the big sign that said Hollywood. So I don't even feel like I've been to California. All I saw in California was just riding. Now in Beverly Hills, I did see what they mean about cars. I never seen so many foreign cars in my life. Only in Beverly Hills, though. So I said, that's true when they say, you know you're in Beverly Hills because you don't see no Cadillacs. That's old hat. You see none of these foreign cars. I said, all these cars only in Beverly Hills. But to answer your question, now another thing, when I got to Seattle, Washington, they told me, he said, it rains every day in Seattle. I said, it's impossible to rain every day other than New Orleans. It rained every day in Seattle. Every day I was there, it rained. It'll rain for 30 minutes and stop. And you get on back out doing what you're doing. Next thing you look up, it's raining again. Now back to going west, man. Glad you brought that up. I mentioned going to New York and I saw the Catskill Mountains and the Poconos. To me, I thought those were mountains, okay? But when we was on the highway and I got a chance to see these Rocky Mountains, I said, oh, Lord, look at this. I mean, now I was a tourist, you just look up, up, up. The Rocky Mountains, I wish everybody in this room could see the Rocky Mountains. That's God's gift to the earth. To see these mountains, man can't make that. You got to see these Rocky Mountains, boy. Next, that covers my West Coast thing.
I would just like to make a statement. I'm Malcolm Shepard. A lot of them don't know me, but Jimmy does, and some other people here. I'm president of the Blues Society.
Right.
And we would like to thank you for coming down on Monday night to our blues show, keeping the blues alive. And very soon you will be awarded a Lifetime Achievement Award and a lifetime honorary membership to the Central Mississippi Blues Society.
You want to hood now, wait. I'm getting old, okay? Excuse me. You done made my day. Now, this is making my day to be here. But you never know what you have in store for you. But back to my dancing partner. You don't have no questions? Other than you gonna kill me?
Well, you could at least tell them that I was a tiny little thing and you were weak. That's all.
You know what? I'm wondering till today. Her mother picked everybody out. So I'm wondering today, how did your mother pick me to be your partner?
It's still a befuddlement to me.
Okay, well. Yeah, yes.
How did you go from Pearly Grove to blues drums? Where did that love come
Slipping
from?
out the house with my grandmother, not knowing what I was doing. Until I started bringing some money home, then they would have the fire lit for me. Yes, Clarence?
Can you talk about your time in Mexico?
Oh, yeah. Oh, Mississippi, Jackson helped me get to Mexico City. I was in New York, and this promoter needed a band, because the band that they had, this man would bring you into Mexico City 6 months at a time. And the man called me and asked me, did I want to go to Mexico? I said, yeah. So the promoter told me, he said, there were 3 different bands, and the man never heard any of y'all, but he picked your band because of the name. And the name of my band, it still is the Mill Street Depot. Right here in Jackson, Mississippi, the Mill Street in Capitol, the very train station, I named my band the Mill Street Depot. That's how I got to Mexico City. And once I got to Mexico City, we were the #1 band at one time. I recorded for CBS International. I did the music score for one movie. My band was in another movie. I had a penthouse. I had a maid. Now I don't have like this record. I who have nothing. But Mexico was great because, see, Mexico is the city's up on the mountain, it sits on top of a volcano. It's by the elevation being so high, it's hot in the daytime, but you can wear your leathers and suedes at night. That was so hip about it, you could get sharp at night. I learned how to speak Spanish. Habla español? Poquito, no, the most, and the funny thing, any country you move in, you know how to count the money and you know how to curse. You know how to curse. No matter what country you go to, cursing come easy. It's hard to learn the rest of the but you can learn how to curse for your family. But, yes, go ahead, Steve.
I have a question. Out of all of the artists that you work with, who would you say had the most impact or the most influence?
Well, the most impact was Joey Dee, the Peppermint Twist. Joey Dee, he taught me a lot, and I passed it on. The reason he was the most impact, he said, I don't believe in finding anybody, because when I played with James Brown, he didn't bother us because he used us for special things. Playing with James Brown was great as well, because you could play behind James Brown and just his body movement, bop, bop. But see, when James was dancing, he be finding people too. But Joey Dee would told us one thing. He said, look, I don't believe in finding. He said, I just ask two things. Be on time and be a gentleman. So remember that, all you band leaders. If you tell a person, be on time and be a gentleman, that means it's business. You got to be on time. Be a gentleman or a lady. Because if you do that, then you don't have to worry about this other stuff, because if you're a gentleman, that covers it all. And I learned that from Joey Dee.
You remember your,
Go ahead.
you remember your final experiences with Jimmi Hendrix? Your last time with
wow.
him?
Well, Jimmy was like when you visit his room, he was this billionaire. His guitar stayed in the bed with him. Okay, that was his main girlfriend. You hear about all these wild stories and everything. Well, playing with Jimmy was sheer magic. Joe gave us, meaning Joey Dee, he gave everybody a spot on the show. He gave me a drum solo. I was young at the time. I'd run out on the floor, play the drum and turn a flip and everything, still playing the drum. And Calvin Duke would play the organ, gave him a solo. Each one of the Starliters sang separate songs, and he gave Jimmy a solo. And Jimmy would play mojo. And we never did recognize the genius in Jimmy. But the way he played mojo, and he would eat the guitar and all of that, and he did that with us. And to watch him do that, and then later on in the year, I said, wow, we didn't know we had a genius in the band. But Jimmy was, I could keep you people, with not much time, but I could keep you here all day and night talking about Jimmi Hendrix. So we'll just talk about the music part. But if you read the book, you'll find out, you'll find out some other parts, okay? I'll give you an idea. We were in our rooms, we were in Syracuse, New York. So Dave regarded from the Young Rascals. They had groovy, you all know the Young Rascals. It's a beautiful morning. Anyway, Dave Bugatti and Tommy was in their room, and they had this chick. So they couldn't handle it, so they said, let's sit for the dogs. They were talking about me and Jimmy. We came to the room. The dog was just a figure of speech, okay? It was like a compliment. They should have said, let's sit for the pros. But I can't tell you what went on in the room. That's all you could. Read the book. Okay.
During your career, I've read the book. It's a very interesting book. During your career, you played with a lot of different bands that play different style of music. And so you've transitioned. Can you just quickly give some of the types of transitions from one to another to Motown, because music in itself keeps changing the way it's presented because people got a different interpretation. Could you just quickly go through all the things you've had to learn as a drummer and as a singer too?
Okay, well, that's what I'll do, because I'm glad the microphone can pick this up, Greg. But like the shuffle, then like the New Orleans funk beat. That's the funk. Then the twist. That's the twist. And then another part of the blues, like cut time. That's called cut time. That's the backbone of the church.
Yeah.
When the saints, aren't you there? And that's really a church beat, but we call it cut time. It applies to all your spirituals as well as your blues and your rock and roll, and all of it built around the. But it all started like this from the jump. That's Matthew's forte. See, it all started from there, and then jazz like. So I had to learn it all, because when I was coming up, got Chicago, you had to play some blues, and then somebody might walk in the club and say, I want to hear Cherokee. Boom, 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 boom. That was fast. You had to be able to play Cherokee. You had to play Green Dolphin Street. A lot of people don't know what the song Green Dolphin Street is about. Or you might have to play Misty. And when Sunny Gets Blue, I went through all of that. And like I say, Mr. Harley started it all. You know, time was almost up. whatever instrument a kid play, make sure they learn how to read. You got so many musicians out here now that can play, excuse me, but they can't read, and that's important. People be surprised. You have to have a drum chart too. Drummers have to read. That's how I got with the Shirelles. That's how I got with Marvin Gaye. That's how I got with Martha Van Dovers. We would play these theaters and play these big orchestras, and you have the drum chart right there too, because there was a bop, there was a break. Then you have to come back in, you have to be able to read all that. So now, just give a kid a cassette and boom. And all these entertainers we talked about, a lot of them never did become millionaires. And I take my hat out to the rappers. I just wish they didn't curse so much. But they've been fortunate now. You got these young kids, they're millionaires now, but they're using electric drums, they're using keyboards. And a lot of the records you hear now don't even have but one or two cats, and they just playing all their different keyboards. It's all computerized now. You go in the studio, cat just pushing buttons and giving you everything you want. So that's why, just give me the old-fashioned blues, okay? And blues will never get old. When I say old-fashioned, meaning I was in Miami, and I was with this group. We were called Original Legends of the Blues. And we were practicing, and I told her, yeah, I didn't like what I heard. I said, man, you all playing something I call slick blues. That's when you're taking blues and making it too slick. Give me the old, from the roots blues. Make it sound blues. Don't make blues sound too hip, because that's what it be, hip blues, but it don't be the blues. And right now, I want to thank all of you all. I got time for one more question, okay? Who's going to be brave and ask one more question?
Did you learn to read music in school?
Big part?
Did you learn to read charts in school?
Yes, it was entertaining. I was about to say, Mr. Holly and Jim Hill and Lanier, I had to be in the band. You had to know how to read. We didn't have two high schools then, Jim Hill and Lanier. And we had one band director. He would teach in the morning at Jim Hill, he would teach in the evening at Lanier. But you had to read. So a lot of musicians in Jackson, Mississippi today can thank Mr. Holly. He prepared us for this journey, okay?
If we wanted to hear you play now, where would we go?
Oh, I'm glad you asked that, because Carol's gonna kill me. We're doing a show tonight at Catherine's, that's in Richmond. We will come Pratt tonight.
Catherine's Steakhouse.
Catherine's Steakhouse. And you can come and hear me on Monday night. Matter of fact, let's make a date for this coming Monday, man.
You got it.
And anybody want to hear it, man, stand up and tell them what Hell's Else is, please.
Well, you know where Hell is. 200 South Commerce Street, the Blues Society.
I know where it is. They back there.
200 South Commerce Street, just on the other side of the bridge, the Central Mississippi Blues Society. I'm proud to say we have been there for 8 years now, on Monday night.
Central Mississippi Blues Society.
At 7:30.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'm making a date with you all now. If you can't make it to Catherine's tonight, you can come to Hell's Monday. Now, the books up here, if you want out the books, I'd be glad to sign them for you. My manager, Ron, has some more books, and we'll have books at Catherine's tonight to sell. And if we run right out there, then I'll have some books that have the mails to sell Monday night as well. That's okay with you?
Yes, sir. That's quite. What time does the show start tonight at Catherine?
We start at 6:30.
6:30.
Yeah, I put on my Facebook page, I said, come and have a steak and some blues. So anybody want to know what Jimmi Mayes is doing tonight, say he eating steak and playing some blues.
That was great. Thank you so much.